reading dark thriller books with intense plot twists and clues and crime and seeing the psychological terror of the characters being in situations that hopefully I will never be in, but being able to see what will happen with it without facing the consequences from my bed is one of my most favorite experiences in the world, and I get that through the books that I read. I know for a fact that you guys love it too, which is why here I am today with a bunch of thriller, psychological thriller, crime thriller, dark thriller recommendations, and you will be happy to know that this is part 1 of the thriller recommendations. I have another part coming. I had 30 to 35 books that I wanted to recommend. Putting them all together in one video is not a good idea, so stay tuned for part 2. For now, let's dive deep into part 1 with a bunch of amazing thriller recommendations. Let's begin the video. Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing very nice. I'm sending a lot of hugs and positivity to all of you. Hi, if you're new, welcome to the channel. I really hope you enjoy the content, and if you do, please do consider subscribing. I have a few other thriller recommendation videos and thriller vlogs. I'll link them in the description. You can go and check it out. And now let's start with the most anticipated thriller of the year. We have The Fury by Alex Michaelides, who is the author of The Silent Patient. The Silent Patient is insanely popular, and for good reason. I have read that book, I have loved that book, and the plot twist was literally insane, which is why I know for a fact that not just me but tons and tons of people were really excited for this book. This is the story of an island where we have 7 people and a murder takes place, and I could tell you more about the plot, but this book I believe is not more about the plot but the writing style. The writing style makes it unique. I fell in love with the character, the narrator of this book. Even if he's not really a good man, I fell in love with the way the story has been woven together like a net. I love the pacing, which is very important in thrillers. I loved the plot points, and I did love the plot twist. The only place where this book let me down a little bit was the predictability part of it. I was able to predict a couple of things, and the plot twists in the end, they were amazing, but it was one plot twist too far, which made it a little outlandish. The author was inspired by Agatha Christie's writing, so if you are a fan of Agatha Christie's book, if you are a fan of beautiful writing, even if it is a thriller, even if it gets a little philosophical, unique writing, and you want to have a good time, then this is a perfect book. It is great for beginners. Just do not compare it to The Silent Patient. Next, we have one of the best, literally the best thrillers I have ever read in my entire life. I am yet to find a book that is this thrilling and cutthroat. The book is The Last Word by Taylor Adams, which is the story of a woman that reads a book on a rainy day just to have a good time, but ends up giving the book only 1 star. The author now is chasing her, stalking her, trying to kill her because of that 1 star review, and we get to see what happened. The pacing was faster than any other thriller I have ever read. I was exhausted because of how quick it was and how I was glued to the book. My eyes were glued to the book. The adrenaline rush, insane, because you really want to know what happens, and the stakes are high. It's a slasher, so expect a lot of gruesome, disgusting scenes, and you actually want to root for the main character. You want to root for her to win. So it's a power-packed book, the best thriller you will ever read. I think if you want to spend your money on one thriller, it has to be this. Now, I have seen a couple of people that recommend No Exit by the same author. I really want to read it. I'm just not able to find it anywhere to buy it. So if you guys have any links or anything, put in the description. I really want to read it. Next up, we have Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. This is such a unique story. I read the blurb and I instantly picked it up. It is the story of a woman who everybody thinks is a murderer, but she never went to jail. She was never convicted. She herself thinks that she is the murderer. The twist is that she does not remember what happened on the night when her best friend died. Why everybody thinks that she is the killer is just that everybody says that she is the killer, and so she's like, you know what, maybe I am the killer. When I was reading it, I read it from the perspective of this woman, and it is so interesting to read the story of a murder or whatever killing that took place from the perspective of the criminal. Now, 5 years later, a podcast called Listen for the Lie is sort of hashing the details up and trying to find out what actually happened. So we follow the podcast, we follow the thought process of our main character to see what exactly happened on that night. It is a dark comedy thriller, and I have to say, a lot of times when people are like, a book is dark comedy and it will be hilarious, it's not. It's just not. I'm like, where is the comedy in this? You're just trying to be cool. This one hilarious. So many parts of it, hilarious. The main character is so funny, like darkly, deliciously funny. I remember giggling so many times when I was reading it, and I love the main character so much. The pacing was amazing. It was not too fast, it was not too slow. It is not the kind of book that you read just to figure out what happened in the end. You do start liking the main character a lot. The only problem is the ending. While it was not exactly predictable, I did not know what was going to happen. When I did see it, I could just see it coming from a long time, and I was not shocked enough. I wish I was more shocked. However, that did not take away from the book itself, and there are so many other topics that the book talks about. Even if it is a thriller, it discusses some very important themes about crimes against women, and I loved the book for that. So I do highly recommend it. Next, I have a thriller series. We have The Family Upstairs and The Family Remains by Lisa Jewell. This is the story of a baby that is found completely alone in a kitchen with 3 dead bodies, and the baby is only discovered because the baby was crying and somebody just came to see what exactly happened. If you look for something twisted, if you look for something dark, if you want to be disgusted, if you want grey characters who think that they are doing something that has to be done but actually it doesn't really have to be done, if you like that dark psychological thriller vibe, then these are your books. I loved the first book. It is one of my favorites by this author. While the pacing was slow, I think it was still worth it because both the books have multiple POVs going on in multiple different timelines, and being able to put all of those things together and then bringing a plot twist in the end, which I can assure you, at least in these books, you won't see coming, is commendable. The amazing thing about Lisa Jewell books is that even though you know what the books are about, you're going to get much more than that. So it is a great investment, and there are 2 books in this series. So if you love this one, you have more content from the same characters, and I loved this one. So I was so happy that there was more to read. I can't tell you much about this because it is part of the series, but it is just as disgusting, just as gruesome, just as twisted, and one hell of a time. I love this duology. Another duology is The Housemaid and The Housemaid Secret by Frida McFadden, which is the story of the housemaid who in the first book is the most poor woman ever. She's living in her car, and so she will take whatever job she can get, and she gets hired as a maid by a very rich family. She goes into the family, everything is just really weird, and she keeps ignoring it because she needs the money till a certain point where she sort of becomes part of the drama. I always say this whenever I'm talking about Frida McFadden books: do not read the blurb, it literally gives away the entire book. I'm saying that again, just listen to whatever I just said, and if you find that interesting, go ahead and read the books. The second book is also similar to the first story. It is not a continuation of the story that happened in the first book. It's more like the housemaid getting into a different kind of trouble, and you get to see how she gets out of that. I don't think that the writing is supreme in these books, and it was slightly predictable for me too, given that I am not a beginner. You can see I read a lot of thrillers, so I sort of understood what is going to happen. However, I just love how dramatic it is. I love rich people drama in thrillers. I love the difference in classes that is highlighted in thrillers. I love to see the dirt, I love to see the twistedness, and that is what is filled in both of these books. It is a bingeable series. It is so much fun. So if you want to turn your brain off and just have some drama filled, twisted fun, these are your books. Talking about the other most anticipated release of the year, we have the reappearance of Rachel Price by Holly Jackson. This is the story of Rachel Price, who went missing 16 to 18 years ago when her child was 2 years old. Now that child, Belle, is 18 years old, and somebody is trying to make a documentary of what actually happened with Rachel Price. All good and well till one day Rachel Price actually shows up, and instead of becoming the disappearance of Rachel Price, it becomes the reappearance of Rachel Price. I love Holly Jackson thrillers because I know when I get into it, I'm going to get good writing, I'm going to get really good characters that are not two-dimensional. They have so many layers to them. You get character arcs, which means that the characters start from one point and then towards the end of the book they're completely different people, and obviously the mystery thriller part of it. This book was perfect in all those areas. I loved everything. I loved the pacing, I loved the plots, I loved how Belle is so different from the other characters that I have read by Holly Jackson, because she is also the author of Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and Pippa in that is this amazing, innocent, really emotional character. And the same goes in the other book that I'm going to recommend, where Red is a very emotional and nice character, but Belle in this book is a badass, and that was so much fun to read and a breath of fresh air. The plot twist too was great and unpredictable. The only thing missing for me is that till so much of the book, it's all going slow and nice and slow and nice, and so you get used to the slow and nice, and then in the end, in like 5 pages, all of the plot twists and everything, all the mysteries, all the questions that you had in the entire book are answered. And I was hoping that it would be unraveled slowly, just like the entire book, which I think is a personal problem. So I do highly recommend this book if you've read the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series and you're like, hey, is this book as good as that? Well, nothing is good as Good Girl's Guide to Murder. That was just iconic, but it's not bad at all. You have to give it a shot. It is such an amazing book. We have another book by Holly Jackson, which is 5 Survive, which is a story of one RV and 6 friends in it. They're going from point A to point B, but they get stuck somewhere in the middle, and everything is fine. They're trying to get out of it till they hear a sniper shot who is trying to now kill them in the RV. Why is he trying to kill them? What exactly happened? We don't know. We get to see when we read the book. The Last Word is an adult thriller which had the best pacing ever. It was so quick. When it comes to YA thriller, we have 5 Survive. I finished this book in 3 hours simply because I could not take my eyes away. Every chapter was ending in a plot twist, and the 8 hours you spend with these people is intense. Next up, I have something for all these sci-fi lovers out there. We have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is a story of a man who loves his family a lot, like to death, but then one day he wakes up in a different reality and he really wants to get back to his family. He wants to get back to his own reality. We see what exactly happened. Is he dreaming or is he in a different reality? Make The Midnight Library by Matt Haig sci-fi and fill it with a lot of thrill, and then you will get this book. The main character is so interesting. He is just a common man trying to get back to his family, and you can actually feel the urgency. Plot twist, even in the middle of the book, they were amazing, so I did not get bored at all anywhere. And even if it is sci-fi and I have never read a sci-fi book before, I was actually able to understand the sci-fi part of it. So if you're a sci-fi beginner, I think you will enjoy this book a lot. I think if you're a sci-fi avid reader, you won't, but you can definitely give it a shot. It was a fun read, it was unique, and it is something that I will always remember. I will always remember how the main character wanted to get back to his family, and that ending was just crazy. I cannot believe somebody actually wrote this. Next, we have Stephen King's Misery, which is the story of an author, a very popular author, who's just trying to finish another book, but he's not able to. Then one day he finishes a book, he goes out to celebrate, and the next thing you know, he's waking up in a bed that he does not recognize. He does not know where he is because he is captured by his biggest fan. This biggest fan is now forcing the author to write another book because the author had killed her favorite character in another book that he wrote. It is such a fun plot. The setting is beautiful. It is as beautiful as the cover because there's so much snow and coldness that's going on. This book is so dark. There are so many things that happen which is so disgusting that I still sometimes think about it and just like shudder. It's not a horror book, but everything that is thrilling that happens is sort of horrifying just because of how horrifying it is. It is a must read. If you're an avid thriller reader, I think you'll enjoy this book a lot. If you are a beginner, I think you will get bored here and there because there are so many references of things that I at least did not understand. And even if you don't want to read the book, there is a movie, so you can watch the movie, though I think that the book was better. We have an Alice Feeney book, who is the author of Rock Paper Scissors, and Rock Paper Scissors is one of my most favorite books. Favorite books ever. We have Sometimes I Lie. This is the story of a woman that goes into a coma, and we actually are able to see what is going on inside her mind while she is in a coma, which is what attracted me to the book. Then we get to see why she is in a coma, what happened before she went into a coma. I have read a couple other Alice Feeney books after reading Rock Paper Scissors because I enjoyed Rock Paper Scissors so much, but those books just did not hit the way this book book did. Alice Feeney makes you question every single page that you read. She makes you question whether what you read and what you understood while you were reading it was true or not, or were you just being dumb. You basically feel dumb the entire time, and there are so many plot twists that you cannot keep count of it, and the ending is just brilliant. All of that is packed in this book, with the X factor, which is that you actually get into the head of a patient who is in a coma. The next book we have is The Couple at number 9 by Claire Douglas, which is the story of a couple that has just shifted to this new house and they're getting everything renovated, and one day during the renovation they find a dead body in their garden, the carcass, the bones of dead body in their garden, and now it is being investigated, and because it is just bones, that means that this actually happened a long time ago. So that means that people that were living in this house before this couple were also involved. I actually picked this book up because I thought it's about a couple, and I'm telling you, the mixture of a couple, a husband and wife, and thriller dark things is just the most fun thing to read. Of how, anyways, that's not the point. The point is that I picked it up because of that, but it is not that at all. It was more about this murder that took place and the secrets behind that murder. There are multiple timelines, there are multiple POVs, and I finished reading it in one night because I couldn't wait to see what exactly happened in the end. The ending is so twisted and disgusting. I cannot take it out of my brain sometimes, and sometimes I do think I wish I could forget it just because of how disgusting it was. But again, if you like Lisa Jewell books and you like the darkness in it, I think you'll enjoy this book a lot. Now, talking about husband and wife, we have My Husband by Maud Ventura. Apologies, my camera died. As I was saying, this is the story of a wife that punishes her husband based on the kind of mistake that he makes, and you follow the inner dialogue of the wife throughout the book, why she's doing what she's doing and when she is doing it. I do not highly recommend this book as sort of like a must read, or that if you don't read this book you're missing out on something or things like that, because it's not even that dark and twisted and it's not that thrilling. But the reason it still made to this video is because the ending of this book is what changed my entire perception of it, and I suffered through so much of the book, but then the ending made up for it. So if you were patient enough like me and you were curious at all about what the wife could be doing to her husband because of the mistakes that he makes, then please go ahead, check this book out. It's a lot of fun. But if you have no patience at all and you get bored easily and you are not up for something completely different in a thriller, then I won't recommend this book. It's just that when I finished this book, I was happy that I spent the amount of time that I spent on it. For a very long time I was cribbing, but then in the end I was like, okay, this is really funny. It is hilarious as to what is going on. It is twisted and it is hilarious. Next we have another psychological thriller. It is Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent, which is the story of Sally Diamond, who was just having a fun conversation with her father where he said as a joke that, oh, when I die just throw me with the trash, and then she actually throws him with the trash. That incident brings up a lot of things and a lot of changes in Sally Diamond's life, and you get to see why Sally Diamond is so strange, why she does certain things. You get to dive into her past. This is one of the best psychological thrillers I have ever read, and it was so underrated when I did read it. So do not miss out on this one just because you don't see it anywhere else. The ending shocked me and it's still there with me. Sally Diamond is such an Eleanor Olyphantish character. You won't root for her, but everything that happens with her and around her is just crazy, and it's intense, and it is dark, and it is twisted, and the pacing is beautiful. Yet again, I read this book so quickly because I could not tear my eyes away from the book. So I highly recommend this book if you like psychological thrillers, and even if you've never read a psychological thriller before and you want to see what it is like, you have to read this book. In the end, I have one of my most favorite books ever. We have Wrong Place, Wrong Time by Gillian McAllister, which is the story of a mother who sees her son murdering someone through the window, but she couldn't do anything to stop the murder. Now her son is about to go to jail, and she accidentally travels back in time to prevent the murder that has already taken place. This one is slow and it is very detail oriented, and it is the kind of book where you really get into the mind and heart of the character, of the mother, and it's also about motherhood apart from being a crime thriller. So you have to be patient when you're reading it, and if you like to read books like this where the characters are so important and not just the plot twist, and the writing is good, then you can pick this book up, because I do prefer such books. It was one of the best books that I've ever read. The plot twist, the pacing in which the plot twist unraveled, it was not all at once. It unraveled slowly and painfully slowly, and it was beautiful how it unraveled and how everything was connected and how there were clues throughout the book. It's the best book ever, like literally the best mystery book ever. And there are some tropes in the book which I can't talk about because that will be a spoiler, but it really tugs at your heart. One hell of an experience. And with that, we come towards the end of the video. Those were, I think, 15 to 16 books. I have 15 to 16 more book recommendations for you guys, so please do stay tuned for part 2. If you liked this video, please do like, share and subscribe, because that helps me understand what you guys want to watch more. I'll see you guys again very soon. Bye.